My first guest tonight gained at least 5 Republican compatriots in the New York delegation on Election Day. He also became the most powerful congressman in the state. And now that the GOP is poised to assume control of the 112th Congress, he stands a good chance of becoming chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee again. Congressman Pete King is joining me this evening from Hofstra University on Long Island. Congressman, thanks very much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Great to be here.
And it's good to see you, so congratulations are in order.
Thank you very much.
What do you think actually happened? I mean, it seems to me that you stand as Republicans to gain as many as 7 seats in the very Democrat-dominated state of New York, which will be more than any other state if it happens with two races in the balance, more than any other state in the nation. So what happened here in New York?
Basically, in the suburban areas, which we see in Suffolk County, which right now Tim Bishop is losing in Suffolk County. You have Grimm in Staten Island, and then you have the 5 upstate races. Once you get away from the heart of Manhattan, the rest of the state, I think, was really turning against President Obama and this mad rush to the left. I think he definitely misread his mandate, and if he's losing this many seats in New York, the fact that the health care plan, stimulus, cap and trade, and I'm not just trying to recite Republican talking points here. I just think the average middle-class New Yorker felt this was just a headlong rush to the left, and they just didn't feel comfortable with President Obama. And this was their way of saying stop. And it's not necessarily a major vote of confidence to the Republicans, but it was a real rejection of the direction that President Obama was taking the country and the state so quickly.
So what does that mean for President Obama then in 2012? Do you think it means that it's a repudiation of him, and do you have a favorite for the Republicans 2 years from now?
Yeah, I think it makes it difficult for President Obama in 2012 because I don't know if he's capable of adapting or adjusting. I'm not into psychobabble, but you start reading different commentaries by even Democrats who know him, who feel that he does not have enough sense of self-awareness to know where he's being rejected or what the voters don't accept about him. Bill Clinton was very good at that. Bill Clinton was a master of psychology, and he adapted very well after 1994. President Obama, we forget he was just a state senator until a few years ago, and he got elected to the Senate and immediately started running for president. So he really hasn't had the ups and downs that people have had in politics over the years. So I think he could be vulnerable in 2012. Republicans could overplay their hand. The economy could come booming back. But right now, I would say President Obama is definitely in a precarious position for 2012. I think we need a candidate like Chris Christie, a person who is a solid conservative, but is not just necessarily tied to the South or the West.
Okay, but wait, Congressman, Chris Christie says he doesn't want to run. I know that he's, of course, he's one of yours. He's right across the Hudson there. But if he's not interested, then what are you going to do? You can't force the guy to run for president.
Yeah, that's why I was saying someone like him, someone who is going to be conservative enough to hold the South and the West, but can identify with states like New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, possibly even New York, Wisconsin, states where you have a lot of middle-income voters, both urban and suburban. If it's not Chris Christie, I've mentioned General Petraeus, and he also says that he doesn't want to run. So maybe I'm pursuing the candidates that don't want to run. I mean, other names that come out, like someone mentioned John Thune. There's Mitt Romney.
Okay, but what about Rudy Giuliani, for example? I don't hear you talking about him, and I don't hear you saying anything about Sarah Palin either.
Well, I would be happy to support Rudy Giuliani. I think right now Rudy is, in fact, Rudy did several very successful fundraising events for me. We talk on a regular basis. Rudy, I think, is waiting and seeing. But no, if Rudy even gives a signal that he was going to consider the race, I would certainly be with Rudy. I mean, he's been a friend for many years. I was happy to support him in 2008. It didn't work out that well, but I think he would be. I think he'd be an extremely strong candidate in the general election. And this time, we'd have to better adapt to the Republican primaries, but he would be an extremely strong candidate.
And Palin?
Yeah, Sarah Palin. I've met Sarah Palin a number of times. I think she is much smarter and much more able than people think she is. She has extremely good political instincts. I've seen her work a room and meet with people and talk with people and speak off the cuff. And so she's much more capable than she gets credit for. However, because she does have certain deficiencies and because the media is going to zero in on them. That would be her weakness. And maybe it's unfair. Maybe the media treats her unfairly. But the fact is, if you're a candidate, you have to be able to adjust to that unfairness. You have to be able to cope. And I don't know if she'd be ready for the type of hardball and lowball questions that would come her way, like Giuliani could, Christie could, Romney could, I think. I don't know if Sarah Palin is ready for that, as she demonstrated in 2008 when people like Katie Couric got the best of it.
Okay, so it's a couple of years away yet. Let's focus on the present for a minute. I mean, you, of course, now are the most powerful guy in the New York delegation, but the reality is that New York is still a Democrat-dominated state. I mean, there's no way to slice it. You did very well, of course, the Republicans in the general with the House races, not so great on the state races. But before we get to that, I mean, is New York going to lose out in power because it's a Democrat-dominated state with only maybe 7 Republicans and 7 new Republicans coming in, plus 2, yourself and Chris Lee?
No, I believe that, working together, we can still be a force. And on issues involving New York, Republicans and Democrats will work together for the most part. And if I do come in as chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, which I expect, I think that's a particularly important position for New York. I have a very good working relationship with Andrew Cuomo and with Mayor Bloomberg. So I think I'll be in a position to, not that anyone has opened doors for Andrew or for Mike Bloomberg, but I certainly make it easier for them to deal with Republicans in Washington. And, listen, the Democrats worked hard, but the fact is I didn't think New York did that great when the Democrats were in charge. In many ways, I think New York was taken for granted by the Obama administration. So in this case, where the president is going to have to reach out to Republicans, I could be in a position, and the other Republicans in New York, we could be in a position actually to be helpful to New York, because the president has to try to win our votes, unlike the Democrats whose votes he took for granted.
Okay, but if this is the case, though, I mean, in terms of the clout that New York is going to have, we also have a redistricting situation coming up in which we're going to lose as many as 2 seats. So what seats are going to go?
I hope not mine.
Well, right.
No, I mean, the rule of thumb is 1 upstate and 1 downstate, and let the fighting begin. I mean, I've only been here. I've been in Washington for 1 reapportionment. I came in right after 1 and then was there for another one, and it's brutal. Friends turn on friends, rumors start, stories start, and suddenly there's 2 dead bodies. So I don't know. Again, it's going to be tough. There's no way I can, right now, a lot depends what happens in the state Senate.
Of course.
And I still have not figured out what happens if it's tied 31-31. I don't know what role the lieutenant governor has with reapportionment. Maybe that gives the governor more of a role. I really don't know what's going to happen. So this is going to be, these are uncharted waters, and it all looks pretty turbulent.
You're actually, you talked about being, having a good relationship with Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bloomberg, who was a Democrat and then a Republican and now an independent. You're a pretty moderate guy. I mean, being a Republican from New York is sort of like being a Democrat anywhere else. You've got these Tea Partiers coming in, and they are really going to drive the agenda, all these freshman Tea Partiers coming in. Are you not worried about the partisan divide that Washington is has been sort of gripping Washington, is actually going to get worse?
There's a danger of that, and I'm probably not as moderate as some people think I am. I'm certainly on issues like taxes and even social issues, foreign policy. I'm very conservative on labor issues and some of the spending issues. I wasn't always that conservative. I can work with moderates and conservatives. But no, I think with the Tea Party, they've energized the Republican Party. We have to make sure that as they come in as Republicans, we find a way to accommodate the Tea Party. The Tea Party realizes the Republican Party is a party we have to work through. But again, it's going to be a new relationship, because there are going to be a number of people coming in, and we have to make sure we don't overreach like Republicans did in 1994 when they took over, and Newt Gingrich ended up shutting down the government, and again by overreaching. I remember in 94 having very conservative people turn against us when the government shut down. They just felt they were conservative both in uppercase and lowercase. And as traditional Americans, they were offended when the government was shut down. So that was a misreading of the mandate in 1994. We have to be careful we don't do that in 2011. Having said that, we have to stand firm on spending. I think on issues like foreign policy and education and trade, we can work with the president. They're going to be very, very tough issues on spending, because we do have to get spending under control. And I think a lot of these programs we're going to have to either cut or hold down are good programs. But we're going to have to make the tough decisions, which could make us unpopular, and we'll see what happens. But, Governor Christie's doing it in New Jersey years ago. Governor Kerry did it in New York.
You're a big fan of Governor Christie's. We had a very conservative guy running here for governor, Carl Palladino. You never actually endorsed him personally. You were a Rick Lazio supporter. The Republicans did well in the House races, as you and I have mentioned, but didn't do so well statewide. Do you think that it's time, is that the fault, first, of Ed Cox, the state GOP chairman, and is it time for change at the top there?
Well, if he's the state chairman and at least one or two races should have been won, then I think the fault has to be with the state chairman. Or whether or not it could have been done better, I don't know. But just like I think Nancy Pelosi has to be held accountable for what happened to the Democrats in the House, Ed Cox was a nice guy. And he worked hard. The fact is we did not deliver at the state level. And I think certainly with Dan Donovan and with Harry Wilson, there were two candidates. And in such an anti-democratic year, we should have won at least one of those races, if not both. It also means we have to rebuild the state organization. You can't just drop candidates in May or June after 3.5 years of having no candidates out there. We have to groom candidates. We have to build them up. And that was not done this year. And also, we have to make sure that someone like a Carl Palladino is not able just to run right through. The Republican organization should stand for more than that, with someone from the outside who had, again, seemed like a nice guy, but just had certain deficiencies which made it impossible for him to win in the fall. There should have been a state organization to prevent that from happening, to be able to mobilize behind a candidate.
Do you wish that you would run statewide? You know, at one point there was talk of you running maybe against Kirsten Gillibrand, and you took a pass. You've taken a pass on running for governor in the past. I mean, are you going to run statewide ever? I know now that, of course, you're in the majority, it's sort of a different landscape, but do you wish that maybe you had gone for it this year?
Yeah, first of all, Senator Gillibrand won. I give her credit. People have told me that I might have won if I'd run against her this year, but the fact is I didn't. Main reasons I didn't was, first, it's only a 2-year term. There are 2-3 million more Democrats than Republicans. I have to raise an incredible amount of money. I would have had to spend 3 full years doing nothing but raising money. So even if I had won this year, I would have had to run again in 2 years. And I knew that if we took back the House, I'd be chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, which is the most critical issue for me. In 2012, I may not be able to run for chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, so we'll see what happens. But I'm happy being in the House, and I have no regrets. I mean, I was having people say to me, "Hey, you wish you would have run." I didn't, and I don't know if I would have been so happy running around the state. I mean, I was able to focus on Homeland Security, but I guess it's always nice being called senator. But what are you going to do?
All right. Well, Congressman Pete King, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you, Liz.